So each year we hear about the Redskins controversy, that name. But over the weekend, a fella named Dorian ravaged the Bahamas. Should the University of Miami change its nickname? Because Hurricanes is devastating. John Henry, are we offended by this?
I'll tell you what's offensive is Mac Brown dancing.
Yeah.
That's
offensive.
fair. Gil Leberton?
Not Miami, but I definitely think that there will be no children henceforth named Katrina in Louisiana.
Ooh, I'll go with that. PressBox DFW Live, and no, you're not seeing things. It's season 3 all of a sudden, fellas. It's football season. It's season 3. It's episode 1, and we also have a new seating chart because John Henry's been promoted, and he will now run the show. Either that, or we just decided this was my better side, or Gil's worst side, or something.
That's it.
Season 3, episode 1. Welcome to PressBox DFW Live. Let's get right to it. We have a very cool guest today. It's a guy I covered at the Star Telegram back to those 90s Cowboys. It is our old friend, Super Bowl 30 MVP, Larry Brown. LB, how we doing?
What's going on, guys?
Good to talk to you, my man. Let's start with not what you've done, but you got some pretty good pedigree going. How's son Cam doing at Texas A&M?
He's doing good. He's a freshman down there. Had a chance to graduate early, went in the spring. Did a good job, and just transitioning from high school to college, and obviously SEC football. So it's a big transition for him, but he's handling it well.
And we're going to get to this later in the show, but A&M has a pretty big game on Saturday against Clemson. Is Cam ready through you to guarantee a victory for the Aggies?
Well, he'll be traveling, so he made the travel squad, so he'll be down there, and obviously you're going against number one team in the country, national defending champs, and so they got their hands full, but everybody seems like they're prepared and excited for this weekend.
That didn't sound like a guarantee, but okay, we'll take it.
You got to do it on the field. I don't believe in guarantees. You got to go do it on the field.
That's true.
And Clemson is the national champs right now, so they're defending champs.
Larry, I was going to bring this up later, but you've watched him. What do you think of Kellen Mond's progress?
I think he's night and day. I've had a chance to watch Kellen since he was a freshman. And, so – I mean, his development, his maturity has been outstanding. From, people forget he went in as a freshman, true freshman, and ended up having to start for them. And last year was his sophomore year, did really good things. And you can just see the way he's throwing the ball. He's a lot more accurate. He seems more comfortable in the offense. So I've been very impressed with Kellen.
It looks to me like Jimbo Fisher is putting in, is throwing a lot at him in this year, in his go-for-broke season in the passing game. They tried to do a lot more, whereas I thought some other schools kind of played it pretty vanilla in the first week. I thought they gave him a lot. I thought they gave Kellen a lot on his plate in that first week, even though the opponent wasn't that strong.
Yeah, you want to see things. Remember, they have a very experienced receiving group with, obviously, you got Courtney Davis, Kendrick Rogers, Jamon Osmond. They love Caleb Chapman, who's a redshirt freshman down there. So they think they're very deep, at that position. So obviously you want to take a good look at different guys. Jamon was hurt a little bit last year, so he missed quite a bit of time. But they think they have a chance to be very, very good at that position. Lost Baylor Cupp, number one tight end in the country, due to some injuries, but they got 2 younger tight ends that they like as well. So when they're trying to put all the pieces together, take a look at a lot of different guys, but they think their passing game could be a strength of the team.
Talking with Larry Brown, Super Bowl 30 MVP, former Dallas Cowboy right here.
How about that football card we just saw? Larry can't see it.
Oh, I'm getting to that. So let's talk about your son's recruiting process, being highly recruited, and let's go back to Larry Brown, Dad's recruiting process, which you're from L.A. I think you went to L.A. Community College. How'd you wind up
Went
at
to LA High
TCU?
School, then went to LA Southwest College, junior college.
So
Yeah.
what was your process? How'd you get to TCU?
Well, my process was a lot different from where they are today. Back then they tell you, hey, some coaches in the office, they like you, they're interested to come see you in the school, and you'd make a decision to go visit, and that was it. Today's games, with the rivals and the 24/7s and the All-Star games, I mean, it's freaking night and day, and Twitter, and
There's
so
no secrets
now,
anymore,
it's
right?
just another planet on getting recruited and being seen. So for us, we just went in the office. Coach said, hey, Coach TCU in the office, he likes you, wants to talk to you, and they talk you into coming down to take a visit to the school, and either you liked it or you didn't. So it was a little different, much different process than it is today.
So I'm sure you've done a lot of podcasts now that you're a big media star, but today you're doing a vodcast. We also have a video component to our show. A lot of viewers are watching us, and we're showing the only picture I could dig up of you at TCU, and that's it looks like a Panini football card of what appears to be Larry Brown, but a bulked up, big shoulder pad wearing number 9 Larry Brown. Do you have
the shoulder pads were ugly, the helmets were ugly back then. There was no swag back then. The
Look at this
uniforms were
picture.
too big. I mean, everything. I wouldn't even bring there. It's awful.
Now, why is it so hard to find a picture of you playing at TCU, though?
Back then, to be honest with you, back then they took a lot of pictures, but that stuff went to reel, and they kept it in. They're going to put them in storages. They just didn't. It wasn't. None of that stuff was digital like it is now.
Yeah.
So now it's easy. You take a picture. It's all digital. It's kept. It can be sent. It was just a lot different back then.
I like the
Dated
helmets.
myself.
I like the
You're
helmets.
back to reel to
It
reel.
all went down with the upper deck, I guess, when they demolished the upper deck.
Right.
We had Polaroids back then. Rich.
That's right.
The one step,
Polaroid.
like Instamatic, you had to shake the picture and take it with you.
Yeah, take the picture, take it with you. So these new kids don't know about that. They don't know about the old turf, which was carpet. They don't know about that you had to take Polaroids and things of that nature, and you had to get film developed for pictures. And,
Oh, yeah.
So now everything's on your phone.
Hey, Larry, I want to switch over to the Cowboys right quick. What do you think of this defense?
I always say this, I'm going to believe every year, I'm not a big guy on trying to predict stuff before the season happens. Number one, you got to keep guys healthy, and we don't know how the season's going to go, but if they can keep some guys healthy, you got to get some younger guys always to step up. I think last year Vander Esch did that as a rookie for the Cowboys, so you don't know until they go do it. But if everyone can stay healthy, which, we've had issues here or there, and stay out of trouble. I mean, how many guys have been suspended for this game or that game for one reason or another in particular? But if you can just keep everybody together, out of trouble, and healthy, they have a chance to be very good. Now, will that happen? It hadn't happened in the last, 4 or 5 years. If it's not, DeMarcus Lawrence for a couple of games or Crawford or whoever, it's always someone for whatever reason that's missing time. Randy Gregory. And so we just love to see all these guys together on the field for a whole season to see what it could be.
Can a disruptive preseason training camp disrupt the whole season?
I would say yay and nay, meaning this. I think Zeke, since he's been there, and I'm not pointing the finger at him, has had to deal with one issue or another, from suspensions to, Jerry fighting Roger Goodell over different things. So I would say, for whatever reason, each year there has been a distraction, so to speak. This year it's a contract holdout. So I think this team is used to having to deal with something, whether it be the drug suspensions or contract holdouts or whatever it may be. So I don't think it's as big as of a deal as a team that's never had to deal with that. In our time, we didn't have a lot of distractions. So when something came up, it was a big deal. Well, I think the last 4 or 5 years, the Cowboys have had to deal with something for one player or another for whatever reason. So I think they've become immune to it, and they've learned how to get through it.
Super Bowl 30 MVP Larry Brown joining us here on PressBox DFW Live. Let's talk about the 93 team that you're on, the Cowboys, because they did have a distraction. It came in Emmitt Smith's holdout. And I remember down at St. Ed's, a bunch of us media dorks on the sideline were like, oh, don't worry about Jerry. I mean, Emmitt's the MVP, the leading rusher. He will get this done. He won't miss a single snap. And I'll be danged if he didn't miss a single snap. He missed 2 games. Kind of talk about what that did to your team and what the buzz was at training camp, because the Cowboys are kind of going through that with Zeke Elliott right now.
Well, I agree. I think there's a big difference in Emmett. I don't believe Emmett had 2 years left on his deal.
Correct.
And I don't think Emmett had any issues off the field up to that point.
Good point.
So, from a teammate, you're like, hey, this guy deserves it. He does it the right way on the field, the right way off the field, and he's a great player. And, he's going to be there for his teammates. And he didn't have 2 years remaining on his rookie deal, So I think there's a big difference between that and Zeke. I think, personally, Zeke's an incredible talent. At the same time, he has to mature off the field. There's been, whether it's the Vegas incident or, walking to a pot house in Seattle or, being suspended for this, what he had, Ohio State, there's always been something. So I wouldn't want to put him in that category. He never had anything off the field his entire career that the team or the organization had to deal with. With Zeke, it's a little riskier, because he's had so many incidences in just a short period of time. So, whether you decide to give this kid more money at this stage or do you wait till his contract up, hope he matures, I don't know. That's to be debated. But I think for Emmett, it was more of a distraction because everybody knew he deserved it. And when I say deserve it, it's not just what you do on the field. It's also how you carry yourself off the field.
Gotcha.
And Emmett was no greater person, more deserving than him under that circumstance than Emmitt Smith. So it became a distraction for us.
And that team, Larry, started, as you well know, 0-2. The Super Bowl defending champions started 0-2, and Jerry decided, I've got to get this guy in here. He caved, made him the highest paid running back in the NFL over Thurman Thomas at the time, and you guys went on to win the Super Bowl. You're kind of saying, I think that locker room was kind of all behind Emmett because of what he did on and off the field. Do you think Jerry's learned his lesson? Do you expect Zeke to miss Sunday's game against the Giants? Do you think he's going to get it done?
I think he's going to miss, personally.
You do? Wow. Okay.
And again, I think the bigger picture is, like you said, with Emmett, Zeke's more risk off the field. He is a greater risk. So if you've had these different instances, if I give you more money, is it going to get worse? Is it going to escalate? We don't know. And I think if you're the Jones family, you have to consider that, you have to take that in some consideration. I also think that Emmett had a much better team around him, different personalities, guys that could play. And I ultimately think that, we would have won more than two games if Emmett had he not been there. I believe that team was that good, but you didn't want to do it without him. Okay. The guys didn't want to play without Emmett. And I'm not sure if the team feels that same way about Zeke. There's not a player in 93 that didn't want to play without Emmitt Smith.
Gotcha.
That's how much they supported him. That's how much they believed in him, not just for what he did on the field, how he made other guys better on the field, his character. So I'm not suggesting that guys on the Cowboys don't feel that way about Zeke, but it's not proven yet that the entire team feels that way about Ezekiel Elliott.
Larry, what do you think of the concept that Jerry and Stephen Jones have both pushed, that they have a salary cap and there's only a finite amount of money that they can pay the players, and the money that if Zeke takes more than they want to pay him, he's taking it away from his teammates. As a former player, what do you think of them pushing that perspective and looking at this?
Well, I don't believe in that perspective. We live in a free market, and at that point, now I don't believe in Zeke holding out with 2 years left on his contract. I do believe that once your contract's expired, if another team wants to pay you more money, you should be able to go seek that. Unfortunately, you got the franchise tags and all other things that restrict that. So I'm not a big believer of that. I think if a guy is like in the real world, if your contract's expired in the real world and another company wants to pay you more, a guy has that freedom and that option to go do that. Well, with a player like Ezekiel Elliott, the team can always hold that franchise tag over him when his contract expires. So they're not always meant to have the opportunity to go play more. And I look at Le'Veon Bell. He got franchised twice with Pittsburgh. Had he gotten hurt or tore his knee up or had a down year, they would have negotiated against him. So is that fair for a kid like that? So, I'm a believer that if a guy can get more money and he's free and he's taking care of his responsibility by honoring his contract, and he should go free and clear. He shouldn't have to be franchised. And that's just my belief, but that's not the system.
Larry Brown, former Cowboys cornerback and Super Bowl 30 MVP, Larry Brown joining us here on PressBox DFW Live. Let's get back to your old stomping grounds. I know you're an A&M dad now, but you're also and always will be a TCU alum. Did you catch any Horned Frogs versus Pine Bluff on Saturday? And if so, what'd you think?
I did, and we took care of business like we're supposed to against a team like that. And, it was just good seeing them out there, some Frogs, and seeing them came out at quarterback. And, Gary's done a great job over there. I think the years that they've had down years, they've had to deal with injuries. So it seems like everyone's healthy for the most part. We've got a few guys nicked up, but expect to have during the season. And I think in a wide open Big 12, it's going to be an interesting year. And hoping my Frogs can take care of the business.
Larry, what did you back to the TCU game? Looked like they were having trouble on their defensive end side at linebacker. What did you see there? And giving up, it looked soft in the middle there at times.
Well, they had some young guys playing because of some injuries. But thank God the guys won't be out for the season. And you're learning. But every year's going to be different. Every year you got to retool like everyone else is. And but I knew Gary's a great coach. He'll get those young guys together. They got a chance to get some good experience. And normally game one, to me, across the board, for the most part, is not going to look pretty. It's the first time you hit someone other than yourself since, spring and fall ball. So those are correcting tools. So I think those games are good, but very few games people come out game one and just look perfect without making a bunch of mistakes here or there. It's like a preseason game in the NFL. It's going to be some flags, there'll be some penalties. So they'll clean that up, and I think they'll be fine.
Which of the two quarterbacks did you like?
I know both of them.
That's got
I'm gonna take that as a hard.
way John's column went.
Sounds like a hard neither, Larry Brown.
I know both of the kids, and I'll be getting calls. I think they both look good, and I'll be getting calls from parents if I said I like this one more than the next one.
Listen to political
veteran
correct,
move.
Larry
A veteran
Brown.
move, Larry.
Now, Larry, you and I used to do some Cowboys pregame on 105.3 The Fan, the Cowboys flagship station. Now, I taught you to be opinionated. That sounded very milk toast down the middle. What's up?
I don't want them dads and moms calling. Have you talked to these moms? You think the dads are bad? Get a call from mom. So I know both of those kids, and they're great kids. So I don't want to even suggest that I like one more than the other. Because it would be the wrong impression. I think they both did a good job, but I also believe at some point one will separate, and it'll be decisive. And I'm wishing both. Whoever does that, I wish them the best in getting it done.
All right, Frog alum.
Well, I was going to ask you, is it a perfect world to go into the Big 12 season with a freshman quarterback?
Never. But you know what? You look around. Everybody's playing freshman quarterbacks. You look at Arizona State. You look at North Carolina. Auburn played a freshman quarterback. So. In a perfect world, you wouldn't, but it seems like that's now becoming a trend. And with guys leaving and graduating, and so home competitions, going to transfer portal, that's where the game is right now. And there's several, and some have had success. I mean, Bo Nix won his first game at Auburn. The kid at North Carolina won his game. The kid at Arizona State won their first game. So it can be done. I think ideally you'd love to have an upperclassman. But unfortunately, some teams are in that situation where they're going to have to play young guys and they're going to have to grow with them. They have to grow early.
All right, let's get in the Wayback Machine, Larry Brown. So it feels like just yesterday, but there's 24-year-old Cowboys fans who don't know that the Cowboys ever won a Super Bowl. They never experienced that. Let's go back to that night.
Included.
Yeah, your son's included, right? Let's go back to Tempe, Arizona. You intercept Neil O'Donnell twice. You're the Super Bowl MVP. Some of us and football fans think he's a made man. He'll have business opportunities trickling in every day of his life because he's Super Bowl MVP. Is that true? Are you still recognized and you get business opportunities because of that night still?
I'm going to say you get business opportunities. I think real fans remember what you did and what you accomplished as a team. It's either both sides. I either got a bunch of Steelers fans that hate me or Cowboys fans that love me. I will tell you what I did learn from that game. I was so young and didn't realize how many people bet on games. So I've had more people tell me either I won them money or lost them money.
Is that right?
What do you think? They love the Cowboys or not? Hey, you won me money, you lost me money. And, so I never realized people wagered on games and all the gambling components of it. I didn't realize after my career that many people, took it serious It wasn't even about the team. It was about, who they thought going to win and who could make money or not make money.
Larry, refresh my memory. Did you get to do the I'm going to Disney World?
I did not. People don't know this story, right? I've told it a few times, and it's an interesting story. So we're in Arizona in a hotel room, and I'm in a room with Emmett, Troy, Mike, and Dion. And, we're just hanging out. And I don't know how I ended up in that room with this conversation coming up. So make a long story short, Deion Sanders is upset that Disney has not raised the money for that little spot
Of course.
in the last 20 years. So he says, hey, if anybody in this room wins MVP, hey, we're not going to do it unless they raise the money. He said, Troy, are you in? Troy said, okay, D, I'm in. Mike, you're in. Yeah. Emmett, are you in? Larry, yeah, okay, yeah, whatever. Yeah, okay, I'm in. All right, yeah, whatever. I'm in. Yeah, I'm in. Whatever. I'm in this room. Why do you ask me that? So when it comes up, I win the MVP. And they asked me to do the Disney thing, and they're all staring at me. All the guys staring at me on the field. And I asked Disney, so are
Mickey
you guys
Mouse
gonna
and
increase the money
everybody.
this year? Right? And they said no. And so I ended up not doing it. I said no to it and didn't do it. I caved to peer pressure.
You did it for you did it for a pack of Dion and Troy and
Good teammate.
Mike. Yeah.
I'm not blaming Troy. The other guys just agreed to do it.
Yeah.
Troy could do it. Emmett, they could do it. Larry Brown. So I caved, ended up not doing it. And then somehow they worked it out through a promotional deal to get Emmett to do it. So Emmett agreed not to do it.
Oh, no.
And Dion has not forgiven Emmett for that yet.
So do you honestly now for a second, do you regret making that pact and not doing that because that's your moment. That's your Disney
I
moment.
wish I had not been in the room. How did I end up in the room with that conversation with these guys?
Right.
Yeah, but no offense, the chances of you winning the Super Bowl MVP, I don't know what the odds were, but they are astronomical, right?
Richie, when they said that in the room, that conversation was not meant for Larry Brown. I don't know why they even brought my name into the conversation, but they did.
Brother. Yeah, Larry.
I guess because I was in the room.
It's good to talk to you, my man. Thank you for
it's incredible.
Yeah, thanks for your thoughts on TCU and congrats on Cam and A&M. And I'm sure maybe we'll talk to you again this season. It's going to be a fun football season. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we plan on beating Clemson. It's going to be upset alert.
Oh, is that a guarantee?
That's a guarantee.
Okay.
All right.
I want you to record it, so next time we talk, I said, I'm going to tell you
don't worry.
they're going to be Clemson.
It's going to be the screaming headlines on ESPN tonight. Larry Brown guaranteeing that they're kind of going to win. All right, LB. Take care, man. We love you.
I think we can be. I believe if they played their best football, they could beat Clemson.
All right.
Duly noted.
We'll be
Should've beat
watching.
them last year.
18.5. That's the spread. You're taking Aggies.
Last year. I don't know if you were. Was that the
No,
game last year?
it was a close game last year.
We had 2 touchdowns called back. Kellen Mond goes out in one play because of his helmet. Starkville comes in, fumbles the snap. Clemson picks it up, takes it back 80. I think they can beat them.
All right. We'll be watching. We'll talk to you, LB. Thanks, man.
All right, buddy.
There goes Larry Brown, Cowboys Super Bowl MVP. That dude knows his football. I mean, at every level of football.
You taught him well.
Yeah.
He was such a, snotty-nosed little 12th round rookie of the Cowboys. And I worked the Star Telegram. He was, Fort Worth. So me and him just developed a kind of a relationship. And he would ask me, how does this work around there? Like, who do I talk? I mean, he was just wide-eyed. And so we kind of gravitated to each other and we became friends. And he's a really good dude. I love talking with him. All right, next up on PressBox DFW Live, Season 3, Episode 1, with our new seating chart. Maybe we can do this. Let's do some little pregame meal. First weekend of September, we've already got 2 games that will shape a season. Let's analyze them next.
Right, Richie. First week of the season, otherwise known as Panic Weekend. Overreaction week in college football.
Yeah.
And if your team won, please hold the parades. If your team lost, get off the ledge. I really don't throw much attention into week 1 because this Texas team that all the Longhorns are so high on began last season by losing to Maryland.
Exactly right.
So it ended up winning the Sugar Bowl.
Yep.
And So
If you're anybody other than Tennessee, you think last week was just a scrimmage. Tennessee thinks let's get to 2020, right? Losing to who'd they lose
Tennessee.
to?
Georgia State.
Georgia State. Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah, well, I was stunned that Iowa State, some people's preseason favorite in the Big 12, came close to losing.
Had to go to OT against Northern Iowa,
But
right?
but they can come back this week and win 40-something or whatever.
Sure.
And,
No one will remember it. If they're 8-0 and whenever, then no one will remember.
Right.
who won.
But we do have two very meaningful games coming up this weekend, not just for fans of the state of Texas, but throughout the country. These are the two marquee games,
Yeah.
and they both involve teams that we know well around here.
Big Southwest Conference teams.
That's
Big game
right.
for the conference this weekend.
Bitter rivals who won't play each other, right?
Exactly.
Let's talk about the big one, the afternoon game first. Texas A&M at Clemson. Now we heard Larry, and we heard the whole spiel about how them guaranteeing a victory, and
I saw this morning on ESPN, one of the linemen for the Aggies, he kind of got goaded into it, but he did say, I expect us to go up there and win, and they turned into it's a guarantee. Of course, it wasn't, but
Right.
the Aggies it's safe to say they're very confident about going into Clemson, even as 18.5-point underdogs.
well,
Which
I
is-
would say that they always put the cart before the horse. You
Sure.
you put a 10-year contract in front of a coach and
Yeah.
and give him a trophy that leaves the national championship dates open, and but, that's typical. They dearly want to get back to the top. Well, not get back to finally get to the top after what's been 80 years now since they were number one in the country.
Yeah.
And they're taking last year's home game and nearly sending the game into overtime.
It is fair to say they almost beat Clemson, though. If you're an Aggie, you can hang your hat on that.
No, I'm not going to say that.
can't
I'm,
say
I'm
that?
going to say that they almost took Clemson to overtime.
Okay.
And by that reasoning, I'm being an LSU alum. I can say that we almost beat them 3
There's
times.
no doubt. Yeah.
So let's take that one away.
Wasn't that the game that Clemson had all the quarterback?
They changed
round table?
quarterbacks
In the middle of the game,
after that game. I mean,
Yeah.
that's when Trevor Lawrence, the next game, became their starting quarterback. So none of this almost business. It doesn't matter because this year, Aggies, there's Trevor Lawrence, and of course he went on and demolished. His team demolished Alabama in the national championship
Yes.
game. It always makes me feel good to say things like that.
And they
And
demolished Notre Dame in the semis, which is almost fun.
right.
It's always
I mean,
fun.
yeah.
they were clearly the best team in the country at the end of the year. And I'll give the Aggies credit. They played them tough. And but man, the betting line for this week is what 18 and
18
a
and a
half
half.
right
That's
now.
got to humble the Aggies who think we're going to go in there and win the. Oh,
That shows you not everybody's drinking the maroon Kool-Aid.
because Vegas sometimes has some wise guys that kind of know what's
Look
going
at-
on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a 2-touchdown plus.
Yeah, the line is seldom.
But this is going to be Clemson's toughest game of the year, and it's 18 and a half. I think their only other tough game is at Syracuse. I mean, their schedule this is Clemson's game, so they're getting up for this game. They think if they can beat A&M, they'll go undefeated. That's how big it is for them.
Yeah, it's probably. I mean, I doubt if anybody in that conference is going to. Miami? Did they even play Miami? I don't know.
Big game Mac? No.
No, yeah, that's right. That North
Dancing
Carolina
Mac.
squad. But we were talking with Larry. I think Jimbo Fisher's the progress in this season, the progress that I saw in Kellen Mond, even against an inferior opponent like he was. I think they're throwing a lot of stuff at him, and that's good.
Yeah.
I don't know what they'll be able to do this week against Clemson. I doubt they'll be able to run as easily, but it's going to go back to defense and the play up front. And I just don't see how anybody pushes
No.
Clemson at home.
You're not going to run on Clemson.
We showed that
Absolutely
picture a minute ago of the, it's a great scene. Clemson calls it Stadium Death Valley.
Yep.
So does LSU. LSU started calling their stadium Death Valley in the 1950s, and then Clemson copied it later. I want that noted in the footnotes. But this is a great tradition. Running down the hill,
Yep.
the team comes up. We saw this firsthand when TCU went there in 2009, I think, and played. I think it was 2009, and they actually beat Clemson in Dabo's first full season. And it was
Should have been fired on the
it
spot.
was,
losing at home
no,
to TCU.
no, that was the TCU team that was gearing up. They were gearing up to win the Rose Bowl the
about
next
that.
year.
Oh, that's right.
And it was pouring down raining that day. And I remember getting to the stadium. Of course, there's only one road in Clemson, South Carolina, to get to and from. It was like I didn't know if I was going to have to stop and call the state troopers to rescue me along the way. We as we were watching there in the rain, here come the buses. The team actually arrives at the stadium in uniform, in buses. They get off the bus. They gather at the end, and they come charging down the hill and all rub their hands on Howard's Rock.
Yeah.
And it was fun. It was fun to watch. I've always thought that was a pivotal game in TCU's history because they won that day.
Yeah.
And it rained the whole darn game. And it was a real courageous performance. And, of course, Clemson wasn't what Clemson soon became.
Right.
But, it's a great atmosphere. And the Aggies are going to get a little dose of their own medicine here. Just as they had that huge crowd, 100,000 last year, it's going to be opposite this time. They're not, the milkmen and all that foolishness is not going to, it's not going to work down there. They're going to
I
have.
don't think A&M's ready for this, do you? I mean, Clemson wins this game, right? And we all agree with that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Clemson wins. I think they'll keep. I think they'll keep
18
it
and a half
close.
sounds pretty attractive.
Yeah,
I think
pretty
Clemson
attractive.
wins. All right, what about the game, the night game, which is where we are today, the backdrop, that's Darrell K. Royal Stadium.
That's got to be an artist conception.
I believe that is
Because
an artist rendering.
Those
Yeah. It
those suites aren't.
The
as
scoreboard
mu-
suites.
Scoreboard's not that big either, but yeah, that's what it was going to look like in some artists.
As much as the man in the orange blazer, Chris Del Conte,
Yeah. He
would like that to be.
Yeah.
That's not built yet. It's certainly not paid for yet.
No.
And I'll say another thing. That huge scoreboard they have, there he is.
There he
is.
is.
The
There he is.
TCU's favorite son.
Yeah.
Man, how fast did he clear his closet out of purple, huh? That scoreboard, there's no way that is devoted totally to football. 2/3 of that are ads and advertising and commercials running and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And they fit the football into like a little corner of that. So anyway, it's going to be a great atmosphere. It'll be warm, but LSU's used to practicing in 90-degree heat and 99% humidity.
You
So
ready to see this all day, Gil, from the
oh,
Texas?
I'm sure we will. They'll act like they've been fans
Typical
for
Texas fan right there, isn't it?
right.
All right, it's Texas hosting LSU 6:30 Saturday night. What do we? Both teams won relatively easy Saturday, so nothing there. What do we think is going to go down? What's the line? I haven't even seen it yet. Have you guys-
4. I think it's crept up to 5.
Okay.
With
Texas
LSU being
getting-
favored.
Yeah, Texas.
Texas getting to 5.
Gotcha.
This is what I think is going to win the game right here. LSU's defense. I think they've got talented NFL caliber players all over that defense, and I think they will present some challenges that Sam Ehlinger hasn't seen.
I'm already on. Well, go ahead. I didn't interrupt.
No, go ahead. I want to
I
know what you're already on.
I'm already on record on PressBox saying that LSU will make boudin out of Bevo.
See, I keep doubting Ehlinger. He just doesn't look the part, but he's a scrappy guy that can. When it's 3rd and 7, he can runs for 7.5. I'm not convinced he can. He's not an NFL prototype passer.
I think the LSU quarterback Joe Burrow
kind
can
of the
match
same
it.
guy, right?
Yeah, same guy.
He's kind of the same guy. I agree with that.
So vote for the defense there.
It's going to be a
Yeah.
good game. So you guys are going LSU. I'll take Texas just to make Gil mad.
No, not making me mad.
All right, big college football. Real quick, you guys, I didn't stay for the TCU game after the tailgate party. You guys watched it. Were you happy with how TCU looked? Did they look satisfactory? Did they look iffy? Did they look?
I think it was very much the typical first game.
So you didn't like what you saw?
It was It wasn't their best performance. Hopefully, it will not be their best performance all year.
Did you see enough to be encouraged, Gil?
No, not really. I thought they were pretty flat. I thought that there were way too many mistakes for the first game of the year.
Yeah.
The red zone failures and things like that. But, that plays right into the head coach's
Gives them
coaching.
something to chew on
Gives them
for a
something to
week.
chew
That's
on for the
right.
next couple of weeks, and I think they'll play much better game 2.
PressBox DFW Live. It is episode 1 of season 3. Next up, do a little double dribble. Hide the women and children because Art Briles is coming to town.
You guys doing any fantasy football this year?
No. No.
Gil, have you ever played fantasy football?
One year.
You did.
One season at the Star Telegram, and I'll tell that story when we have more time sometime.
I used to play it back when you had to fax in your lineup, and I'd go down to, I would go from a Cowboys game, drive into the Star Telegram office just so I could get on the wire and read my
Yeah.
members, league owners, the box score from AP Wire, because that's the only way you got them back then. We're talking, late 80s.
Exactly.
So I did that for about 20 years, and I realized this is nonsense. What am I doing? So I haven't played in forever.
I've got a draft tonight. I haven't actually drafted in 4 or 5 years. I just do the auto draft. But I think I might actually do it tonight.
I
Don't
think
do
you need to look at that
autograph.
First
Come
and
on.
Tens podcast,
Yeah, you
obviously.
do. First and 10
Exactly.
podcast right here at On Air Media. They'll
Exactly.
help you out.
So speaking of, I play in this league at Woody's Tavern, and I walked into the bar.
Shout out to Woody's.
Yeah, walked in there a couple of weeks ago, and this young lady comes up to me. I think I had just ordered a drink, and this young lady walks up to me and says, "Can I get your autograph?"
I saw this at the tailgate party. This
And
is
I'm like,
real.
I'm like, what? She goes, yeah. I was like, no, I'm not giving you an autograph. She goes, but look, you're famous. And she hands this to me, and it's a baseball card with me in it, and we've got it somewhere.
And on it. I saw this at
And
the
I-
tailgate
and-
party. Somebody
Yeah.
had this.
And I
Guy
was-
came up wanting to get your autograph on Saturday.
Yes.
Yeah, your initial reaction was probably, what am I in trouble for? Am I signing here?
Right. I mean, I've been served papers before.
Yeah.
And so
There we
anyway,
go. There we go.
there it is.
I don't know if that's.
And I saw this thing, and of course, I immediately knew who was responsible for it. Although he denies it. When you have friends who are in the printing business,
That'd be the first guess.
that'd be the first guess. And he was 2 stools down from me, looking away, like knowing full
Right.
well what I've noticed here. And he's like, I had no idea what you're talking about. Well, how that came about, and he's the only one who had the picture too. And I'd covered this Canelo fight years ago. It was the Liam Smith fight, and in the media goodie bag they gave us this
Headband. Yeah.
and I put it on, grab ass in somewhere, and he immediately shot it. That's been 5 or 6 years ago.
So
I'm
this
sure that-
wasn't at ringside.
No, it was
Where you
not.
had to, where you had to
I
wear
thought you were-
you had to
I thought
wear
you
the
were
swag.
I thought you were in his posse, like walking in the ring.
Wow. I've seen media credentials before, but having
Yeah.
to wear swag like that is.
I mean, it's a cool idea, but the picture kind of,
Oh, it was. Yeah. Well, yeah.
it kind of let me know that somebody's up to some shenanigans here.
Yes.
Yeah, you needed a bat in your hand or something.
It looks
like that.
better than Larry Brown's Panini card from
Do you
TCU,
think?
though.
I mean, it's not Billy Ripken kind of
That's not
stuff.
Billy Ripken.
I wish it had been Billy Ripken. That'd been great.
Google
So anyway, that card made a reappearance on Saturday
Yeah.
at the TCU game.
Fun.
Of course, somebody came up and said, "Will you sign this?" I'm like, "Where'd you get that?"
Yeah. Very serious he came up.
So
His handlers came up and asked.
So Friday evening, I took the 90-mile trip up to Bonham to see the reemergence, the comeback of Art Briles. Is he the most hated man
Yes.
in football these days?
Yeah.
Not just football.
You're right.
It's despicable that he is employed. It really is.
Especially at that level, right?
As a coach, I mean, yeah.
But anyway, he made it back from Italy literally 28 days ago now. The first time he met his team at Mount Vernon. He had been in Italy. I didn't know that until I got there. The coaching staff only had 25 days with him.
He'd been hired previously, but he just got back. from
Exactly,
Italy. So he
yeah.
had 25 days with his new team.
Right. There had been no spring meeting with the team saying, I'm your new coach. This is what I expect of you, and blah, blah, blah.
He had to get back so he could teach home economics.
Yeah, teach.
I thought he was in the
Teach
science
theology.
department. I thought he was in the science department.
Yeah, science department.
So anyway, there was no more striking picture in my mind than seeing him on the sidelines at a 5,000 seat stadium. Maybe there was a good crowd, probably 3,200 there, 40.
A lot of media there or no?
It was not as much as I thought, but
Like national story or just
there
local?
was a national guy there.
Good.
From LA, and there were a couple other outlets, but most of them were just local television stations.
Yeah.
From Mount Vernon, there to cover the game. But there was no striking picture, as I was saying, of him being in that stadium on those sidelines. Then the last time I think I saw him, which was at AT&T Stadium at the Cotton Bowl, at a 60,000 or 80,000 seat stadium. I think that's the game they blew a 21-point lead to Michigan State. But what really struck me most about this game was he would do, I really honestly think, I am torn about how I feel about him. Because obviously, at the very least, there was neglect in what happened at Baylor, if not outright, just malfeasance.
Right.
But this guy would do anything, including taking a high school job at Mount Vernon High School just to coach football. This guy is ultimately this guy is
That's what he is.
a simpleton, really, when it comes down to it. Now, he's a very, very good football coach. There's no doubt about that. But all this guy wants to do is coach football. And I think that's ultimately what led to his demise at Baylor was just, I think more than anything, simple neglect.
Well, he wants to be a successful and famous. He's an
driven-
ego-driven
He's driven
football
by,
coach, not just be a football coach.
as I
But-
mentioned in our story, he's driven by this unchecked ambition that
Yeah.
just leads to what it led to.
So who won the game?
Mount Vernon won convincingly.
They did.
44-16.
25 days of prep, they won.
Yeah, and that Bonham's down a little bit, and Mount Vernon's pretty good. They went 3 rounds deep last year in the playoffs. So he's not taking over,
He ain't no fool.
Pascal High School or whatever. But
Shout out to Pascal.
I love Pascal High School. But one thing I did find out there is he's rebuilding. He's got the Stephenville model. Somebody out there.
Steroids?
Well, I didn't say that. But
He's always cut corners wherever
There's
he's been.
no
He's
doubt.
always looked for
That's why I
some
said he's-
under the table advantage.
Yeah, he always wants to be a successful
Always.
coach at any cost.
Right.
Yeah.
he's hired the staff of the junior highs or the junior high at Mount Vernon. So he's building a Stephenville model.
Mm-hmm.
Whether he introduces needles or not, I'm not sure. But
All right, well, check out John Henry's story. It's
a
about
great story.
Art Briles, very
Read
good
it.
story. It's Texas high school football and one of its villains, Art Briles. All right, next up on PressBox DFW Live, from Dandy Don to the dynamic duo, let's talk about the Cowboys' most memorable season openers next. Wits End brought to you by Cowboys Giants this week. How about that? So, all right, we got the Dak contract thing we've kind of forgotten about. Amari Cooper's got a foot thing. He hasn't played all preseason. Zeke is supposed to sign today, but he will be on the field. Jason Garrett's lame duck. They got the first place schedule. Nobody in the NFC East has repeated in 14 years. It's a weird division. Are the Cowboys closer to being last place or first place?
I think they're closer. I think they're still closer to being first place.
You do.
I do.
Gil, your thoughts? You worried about what are these distractions, or are they just Cowboys as it always happens?
No, I think they're distractions.
Yeah, me too.
When they start going together like that, it's a distraction.
Yeah.
And this is a team that needed everything to go
Exactly right. And if it goes a little bit sideways, they can start blaming, well, we didn't have Zeke and our head coach is not coming back. I mean, it could go. We've seen these things go south really fast unless the Cowboys go off to a good start.
Do you think everybody on that team has Zeke's back on this?
That's a good point that Larry Brown made
he
earlier
did.
about everybody had Emmett's back because he was pristine
'cause it
off
was
the
Emmett.
field, because he didn't have a contract. that's not the same with Zeke. Zeke doesn't have a pristine off the field. He's had lots of problems, and he's got a contract. So I bet you not everybody. I don't have this. I haven't done a survey, but I wouldn't be surprised if some guys are like, just get your butt in here. Let's play football. You've got a contract. Yeah. And that, as you say, that could fracture a locker room. Cowboys Giants, of course, the season opener. Football is back 3/25 Sunday at AT&T Stadium. So speaking of Cowboys openers, I did a little list for the website, PressBoxDFW.com. The 10 most memorable season openers for the Cowboys, and I'm going to go through 3 of them real quick here. You can read the whole list, obviously. You guys remember 1986 when the Cowboys debuted the dynamic duo, Tony Dorsett and Herschel Walker in the same backfield, and their opener was on Monday Night Football against the Giants. And I remember thinking they're going to go undefeated with 2 Heisman Trophy winners in the same backfield. And this was old footage of Herschel.
Seemed like yesterday.
Look at those shoulder pads. I mean, how can anybody
Herschel was
tackle
all
that guy?
about the shoulder pads.
Oh my God! But I mean, that was. You guys remember that game,
Absolutely.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Did you think that was the greatest idea ever?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then eventually, I mean,
What could go wrong?
7 games in, Tony Dorsett was like, he's getting more carries than me, and I want out of here. I mean, it was a disaster. Horrible.
Who was the quarterback then?
Danny
Danny
White.
White was
Danny,
still the
yeah,
quarterback.
absolutely.
Well, you know, when they signed Walker, I remember Tony Dorsett said when the numbers came out, and Tony Dorsett said if those numbers are correct, Tony Dorsett's going to be upset.
Speaking third terms is never a good thing for your player. All right, another on my list. You can read the full list at PressBoxDFW.com. Let's go to 1999, and the hated Redskins were the opponent. Cowboys trailed by 14, got it into overtime, and this is one of the greatest walk-offs in Cowboys history. Troy Aikman to a guy named Rocket who was sort of open. 76 yards, ended the game. And there's not a better way for a Cowboys fan to start the season.
No.
A bomb that ends up in a walk-off at FedEx Field, I guess that was already at the time. And again, that Cowboys team was going to be, we're going all the way. And then Aikman was retired a couple, I mean, that was his last year, his last full year. And he beat his old friend, North Turner. Yeah. Let's go to 2015, I believe this was. It was Cowboys-Giants, Sunday Night Football. Cowboys had trailed. They had no timeouts left. They drove 80 yards, and 2 old familiar faces, Tony Romo and Jason Witten, hooked up with 7 seconds left. And this turned out to be the latest game-winning touchdown in Cowboys history in regulation. Obviously, the overtime game ended it. And the video kind of froze up on us. But it's Romo to Witten, and the Cowboys won that game 27-26. They won this game. And, I mean, the Giants, they had no timeouts. They went 86 yards. The Giants were just like, what are we doing? This was
he dropped the snap.
He took a little basketball dribble before he hits Witten. And, again, Cowboys fans, you've just beat the Giants. You've rallied back. You've got Romo. We're going undefeated. And they were coming off their – that was the year after the Dez didn't catch it games. But no, that didn't work out for him anyway. So there you go. Read about the Cowboys' memorable season openers at PressBoxDFW.com. Next up, it's the walk-off. We made some tailgate friends this weekend. We're going to prove it next. Gil, you kind of organized this thing last Saturday, so give a shout out to the tailgate guys. And kind of
TailgateGuys.com, the gang there, Cody Nelson, the local rep, and did a great job setting us up. We had a place right there on the lawn outside Schollmeyer Arena. Right where
it's a picture I took of Frog Alley, which I hadn't done in about 10 years. I forgot what a cool atmosphere it is outside Amon Park.
Yeah,
that's kind of the entrance to their tailgating scene.
Right, and we had a lot of people stop by, people that remembered us.
And we had Chick-fil-A.
You
could eat Chick-fil-A.
There we go.
There
we go.
Before John Henry
There's
took
our spread
home, I had a good picture of it.
And we had a cooler full of beverages.
Yep.
And we had a lot of fun visiting with people who are reading us, people who are watching the podcast. And then we had people who just knew us that stopped by and said hi.
Yeah, I recognize you old farts. What are y'all doing?
Yeah, what are y'all doing these days?
Have a business card. Watch us.
That's right.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Chick-fil-A.
And we gave away all our tickets.
We did.
Absolutely.
We had 3. There we are. there's a couple of lucky winners right there. We just had a great time. It was hot, but we had plenty of shade and enjoyed ourselves, and it was just we had such a good time that I think we ought to try and do it again.
I was going to say we're going to repeat that at some point.
At some point,
maybe before the Texas game. Let's see if tailgate guys will donate during the Texas.
Whoa.
game.
Hopefully.
We give them a lot of free pub. I bet you they'll do it.
Right.
Hint, hint, tailgate guys. All right, what's our big stories on the website this week?
Still time to read John's story about Art Briles. Your story about the Cowboys' 10 best openers.
Yep.
And we've got the first of our preview stories this week on Aggies' plan to shake the world, shock the world, shock the world.
It'll be both.
Wendell was on hand in College Station yesterday and has all the inside there.
All right.
Big week in college football.
Big weekend. We'll review it next week.
And Cowboys.
Right here
Let's not forget
yeah,
Cowboys.
and
Absolutely.
NFL to review next week. PressBox DFW Live. For Gil Leberton and John Henry, I'm Richie Witt. We'll see you guys in the PressBox DFW.